Good evening. How's everybody doing? Yep, late night tonight. Okay. Hope you guys are in the mood for some heavy numbers because there's lots of number stuff going on. We're going to revisit something we haven't talked about in a very long time with Back to the Future and a very interesting discovery by a channel we're going to take a listen to their discovery, and then we're going to go deep into it because they're not really a gematria based channel, but the numbers that were discovered were very interesting. So we're going to take a look at that. So just waiting for some people to show up. Where the ticker here says we got 6 people, so just give it a minute. This kind of stuff is really cool to really follow from the beginning. Okay, and so while we begin and get this set up, I just want to start with this concept that's really interesting that I came across. So we're interesting with the whole concept of the crown of thorns and biblically speaking, that kind of idea. What's interesting is I came across this article by the CDC called The Emerging Infectious Diseases. Emerging infectious diseases, the concept of the crown and its potential role in the downfall of the coronavirus. And pretty interesting. Coronavirus virons are spherical or variable in shape and composed of an outer layer. The lipid covered with a crown of club shaped polymers of or spikes. Within each spike is a helical single-stranded RNA containing structural protein. Although the term corona was first used in English in the 1500s, it was borrowed directly from the Latin word for crown. Corona is derived from the ancient Greek, meaning garland or wreath, coming from a Proto-Indo European root scare or cur, to turn or to bend. In the 1967, and it's very interesting, it just keeps going on and talking more in depth about ancient gods. Like you can see as it continues on down here, we're into Egypt and autumn and how the solar deity, the sun god Ra and Horus, and Buddhist cosmology. And this just keeps going on through ancient and world references. Helios in the book of the Odyssey, and how Homer refers to Helios, and they look at these different coins from Augustus and Aurelian and stuff, and it's like, what is going on with this? And it keeps going. Helios, the sun god of the Greeks, and the crowns are associated with power and joy in Western uh, art in ways contradictory to the reality of the tragic pandemic that we're now experiencing. And it's just this weird conversation about gods and history and the word coronavirus. And this was put out by the CDC with this big giant crown, talking about the crown, that the situation the world is facing and how it ties into all this mythology. This came out in September of 2020. Interesting, the crown of thorns, the crown, the coronavirus, with his head dressed in the circle of the sun symbol and impaled by its rays, held at bay by the cube, the sun, the cult of the sun worship, that old Babylonian mystery, declared its victory of the sun god over the Son of God through the crown of thorns, while being held back on the cube, which is pretty interesting because when we take a look at the flux capacitor, we end up seeing the cube. So keep that in mind here, as this stuff is always linked. It's always together. It is sun god worship, Saturn worship, these geometric symbol worships, and numbers worship. It's all linked together. So now we're going to take a listen to Theology Ed here as he takes a look at a couple numbers and a date, and we're going to expand on it greatly.
Of course, in Back to the Future, we have the important Twin Pines Mall scene, where we get the Twin Pines representing the Twin Towers in the 116, which is the upside down 9/11. You flip the whole thing over, of course, and we get the 9/11, and we have the Twin Towers falling. Here, your Twin Pines being replaced by the towers in this scene in Back to the Future 2, to make sure it's not missed that the Twin Towers are represented by the Twin Pines, and it has the screen scrolling like it's falling. We even have him upside down to show us that we can flip it to see that. Okay, so we get our 9/11 in this clock. Now this clock then is important. And in the last video we talked about how that same 9/11 is on these two stopwatches, which a minute later show what looks like 12:01:21.
So that's a pretty interesting connection there, because they did flash 9/11, and we know Back to the Future is highly symbolic and connected to 9/11. Well, with the changeover in the time period, then the next date was going to be 12/01/21, or December 1st, 2021. Okay, that's a fascinating connection, and there's a lot of reason to believe that.
The 116, interestingly, is the running time of the movie. 116 minutes, right? Run time of the movie. Now, if you take this July 3rd, 1985 date, that's the release date, and you add 13,300, or 13300, don't need the zeros, days, you land on December 1st, 2021. In other words, this may be pointing all the way to this, which is exactly there. So we get the 119 as the first date, first time, right there. There's your 9/11. Flip it over, or reverse. Get the dates. I'm sorry, you don't flip it over on the stopwatch. Flip it over here. You get your 9/11, and you have your 9/11, and then the return time 12:01. Well, you get that by adding to the release date.
So we get some very interesting number correlation there. Now, when we take a look at this, we get that date, December 1st, 2021. Well, that's an interesting number just on its own. So we're going to look at this from a Kabbalistic point of view to understand why this number is significant, why the dates are significant, and why, as a result of that, because of their devotion to these numbers, the probability of some kind of event taking place is much more increased compared to other days. But once you see the significance of this number, you'll see why, to this degree, this should actually most likely, we will see some kind of event on this day. So, for example, we just saw how that 133 from the release date of the movie actually brought us to this date as well. Well, the date of 12/01/21, the number is actually the 11,313th prime. So we actually get the 113 and the 313 directly in the 12/01/21, the date. So it's absolutely right there. The numerical association should be like, okay, there's something here, because the mathematical probability of that just lining up, it just isn't there. While at the same time, this is running off of a palindrome of 12 and the 1 in the middle and then 21. So we get this palindrome, we get the perfect numerical significance lining up with the date in the propaganda, and we get the supporting numbers surrounding it. It's also interesting that the situation we're going through with the Center for Disease Control having the 133 in it as well, and how the reference to the crown or the keter, and here we are going through this event at this time. Well, the crown or the keter in Kabbalah is actually referred to as the archangel Metatron and the angel of life. Metatron is at the top of the tree. He is the crown. Well, Metatron and Twin Pine, as in the Twin Pine Mall, where the sign with the clock on it is a 4-for-4 match with Metatron and Twin Pine. 110, 110, 106, 106, 47, 47, 34, and 43. Which is interesting because Lone Pine, after Marty comes back from the future, and it's now Lone Pine. Well, Lone Pine is a 4-for-4 match with Wormwood. So we get this interesting correlation of the time jump and the transfer, and then we get this now direct association to Wormwood, which gives us the biblical reference of, and the name of the star is called Wormwood, and a third or a 33% of the waters became wormwood, and many men died because of the waters because they were made bitter. 8:11 is the verse because of this poisoned water. And we're quite familiar with August 11th, 2019 being Tisha B'Av because of the 28 dead and the million evacuated from the twin typhoons, which is pretty interesting because of the numerological significance, which is China 35, 26, 28, COVID 53, 26, 82, and 28, and Crown, and Kill, and Tisha B'Av, and P. Fizzer. Now, when you take a look at Tisha B'Av 2021, which was July 17th, and we run that to the date of interest, December 1st, 2021, it's exactly 137 days, which is fascinating because it's the 33rd prime, bringing more significance to this. And what happened on July 17th? Well, there was a desperate search for survivors in Western Europe because of an event of catastrophic, historic proportions because of flooding. And 133 people died. It's a pretty fascinating number that the Tisha B'Av event that's going on at the same time as these other times are lining up gives us initial reports of 133. And we're familiar with the 9/11 connection to Tisha B'Av as the Day of Destruction remembrance of 11/9, the ninth day of the Hebrew month, on the ninth day on the Hebrew month of Av, the 11th month, so the 9/11, which took place also as an event in the States with the Twin Towers, and we had the Twin Typhoons. Well, it's interesting when we take a look all the way back to 1906, October 19th, which is a variation of that 9/11, the October 19th to December 1st, a date of interest, we get 60066. We get a 666 connection. But what's interesting about October 19th, 1906, is that that's where Charles Pfizer, well, that's when he died. That's right, Charles Pfizer. And he was also born on March 22nd. That's a pretty interesting birth date and death date for such an interesting person in this, considering what's going on and whose name's very important to the situation we're going through, who died at the age of 82. So, Mr. Pfizer is a 119 and a 322. And we're familiar with the 322 connections to the Georgia Guidestones. And when we take a look at his birth date and we run it to the day he died in 1906, we get 990 months and 27 days, which is 9 plus 9 plus 9. So very interesting, especially when we mirror that, flip it upside down and such. When we take Back to the Future 2, and we take the information presented in it, we also notice that it opens in November 22nd, 1122. We also understand with March 22nd, 1980, the day of the Georgia Guidestones, when we run that to November 22nd, 1989, the release of Back to the Future 2, it's 116 months to the day. The Upside Down 9/11 and the 322, the 11/22, for 116 months, which is the Twin Pines time and the length of the movie. Crown is an interesting motif thrown in with this riddle because of the 62 reverse ordinal and the 62 reverse full reduction. So 62 and 26. Because it was October 26th when Marty decided that, well, that's when Marty had to jump into the car. So that was the first time traveling event with the dog for the 120121 and the 122, October 26th. October the 10th month, so 126. Just like Wormwood and Lone Pine. When we take a look at October 26, 1985, the first day, the day that these numbers are going on, to October 18th, 2019, October 18th, 2019 was Event 201. Well, it's 33 years and 11/22. So we get that 33 again and that 11/22 of the release date of Back to the Future 2. It's uncanny how these numbers are all melding together. It's all part of the same line of information. Now, October 26, 1985, from Marty's time, from the, I don't even know what to refer it to, we'll just call it the Back to the Future event. It left 66 days of the year. So the time of the time travel left 66 days in the year. Well, that's pretty interesting because 2211 is the 66th triangular number. 11/22 was when Back to the Future 2 opened, and the day presented in the time traveling. It's very fascinating. And don't forget that that's part of that algorithm for 222 111 is 666 as well as a triangular number. Because the 2221 is the 331st prime number, just as the Lone Pine Mall is the 331. And the time span to December 1st, 2021. 9/11, the associations that are in here are pretty fascinating when we connect it to Back to the Future as well. Because when we write out 9/11, we get 105 and 51. Well, 105 and 51, when we take October 26, 1985, Marty's time experience, to September 11th, 2001, till 9/11, well, it's 15 years and 122. So 9/11 is 105 and 51. And from the time event to 9/11 is 105:15 and the 122. Carl Pfizer, 122. And if we measure from his death to October 19th, 2021, a day of interest that we've kind of, looked at, well, that would put him into the, like, 115 years. It's just fascinating how these numbers just keep lining up, right? So, from Pfizer's death to where he sits now, we get all these 15s, 105s connected to the 9/11s, which is interesting because the day that they travel back to was November 5th, 1955. So they travel back to 105, 1105, the 15s, and the 55s, which is interesting because it was leaving 56 days in the year, which is the CDC 56 prime and coronavirus 56, which on 3/11 was called as a pandemic for 118,000 cases. And when we run the release of Back to the Future 2, 11/22/1989 to March 11th, 2020, when it was called, well, it's exactly 30 years, 110 days. So the time span between Back to the Future 2 to 311 is a 311. From the time that they traveled back to in Back to the Future to November 5th, 1955 to September 11th, well, that is also 311 days with a 45-year span. From October 19th, 1906, the death of Pfizer to Event 201 is exactly 113 years to the day. Now, when you take a look at his death again and run it to November 17th, the day they told us that patient zero was discovered, November 17th, well, from Pfizer's death to patient zero was 113 years and 30 days. Well, 113 is the 30th prime. So we get the 113 and the 113. Holy jacked in, man. Like, it's just unbelievable how Pfizer is, the most benefiting, one of the biggest benefiting companies going on with this. Uh, the numbers are all staked in with it. We got the dates timed in with it. It's if you don't understand that we're living in a contrived, written world, like, this is way more interesting than television. Way more interesting because they're pulling this off, and that once you see it, it all comes crumbling down so quickly, and you just wonder how you ever believed it. Anyway, we keep going from the time period of November 5th, 1955 to when Marty left. So Marty left on October 26th, 1985 and went back to November 5th, 1955. It also is 29 years and a 311. So when we take a look at December 1st, 2021 itself, we also notice that it is leaving 30 days left in a year, again, the 113th prime. So just riddled in with the perfect numbers, connected directly to the 311. It itself is the 222111 numbers in the December 1st, 2021. And when we even take a look at the month of December, we get 55, as in 1955. We also get the 37, which lines up with Crown 73, which is fascinating because October 19th, 1906, on Pfizer's death day, it was 73. It's just unreal. And July 3rd, 1985 was when Back to the Future was released, 73. It's just unreal. And it left 181 days in the year, the 42nd prime. Well, from July 3rd, 1985, the release of Back to the Future to the calling of the pandemic was 181. Was 181. Oh, the devotions to... See, the devotions to these numbers. They're gonna have to do something. It's just too perfect. It's too perfect. These numbers mean too much to these people. Like, can we believe that this guy was actually born 322 and died 9/11? Like, that's unreal. Aged 82. Okay, we've been pre-programmed about the zombie apocalypse forever. He's aged 82, right? March 22nd, 1980, the day of the Georgia Guidestones, is the 82nd day of the year. P. Fizzer is 82 and 28. Now give me a break. If we run his lifespan, he died at the age of 82 and 211 days. And we're propagandized by 28 days later. Your days are numbered, which was released in the UK on 1122, and on the States 27th of June 2003. And if we take June 2003 27 and we run it to 12/01/21, it's exactly 18 years, 22 weeks, and 3 days. So 6 plus 6 plus 6, and another 322. Oh, yeah. And the running time of the movie is 113, as if we didn't need that reinforced. From September 11th to the day of interest is 322, the birthday of Pfizer and the Georgia Guidestones. Again, from Tisha B'Av 2019 to the date of interest, another 2322. From Tisha B'Av to December 1st, our date of interest is a 211 2. From the patient 0 to the date of interest is a 22. From the corona pandemic declaration to the day of interest is a 22. From September 11th to the date of interest is 222. And the master is 22. The master builder number is 22. From from Tisha B'Av to the date of interest is 2 years and 16 weeks. 6 times 6 times 6. And from the day Marty went back in time to the date of interest is 66 years, 3 weeks, and 6 days. 666 is the 36th triangular number. From the day he went back to the day of interest is 3636. It's not like I go looking for them. They're just there. It's just what is there. Like this is why it's crazy. It's not like I'm like purposefully looking for this. It's just there. I didn't make Back to the Future open on 11/22. I didn't tell them to put another warning in the end. So, like, when you watch the end of Back to the Future 1, there's the giant 9 in the corner up here. You get the two flames, the 9/11. Well, they end part 2 the exact same way with another 9/11 warning about the new world order hidden in the background here. There is a new world order warning for another 9/11 event. 9/11 will be concluded. Again, remember, this is a 2-tower ritual. The first tower, now the second tower. We're looking for the second event. They told us the first event was September 9/11. Here we go. They're telling us the second event is going to be December 1st, 2021. And we're looking at it, and everything else seems to back them up. Back to the Future 3 is when this is going to be concluded, 88. A cube has 8 points, 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. And we've already looked at time travel. The only reason why, as Doc said, time travel is possible is because of the flux capacitor. That's what makes time travel possible. The cube, which was Einstein's theory of relativity, the fourth dimension, time and space. The tesseract, the cube within a cube, the 88, which is what makes time travel possible, which is what they're researching for CERN to break through the veil. 88, which you get by taking 2 times 2 times 2 times 11, 22211. That gets you the 88.
Okay, relax, Doc. It's me, it's Mark.
No, it can't be. Just sent you back to the future.
Oh, I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back. I'm back from the future.
Great Scott.
Doc! 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 Oh. Yes.
To be concluded December 1st, 2021. If you enjoy my work here, I'm available for support through Patreon or PayPal, and I do greatly appreciate it during this time with the transfer of the system and everything that's going on, and my wife being pushed out, and we no longer have an income, just like most anyone who is still at this point honestly making the decision to stand. We've been pushed out of finance just like everybody else, and now we have to try to figure out a new way. This is what it is, people. She's one of the frontliners. She was healthcare, so she's out. It's coming to everybody. This isn't a joke. We've got, you know, couple dates pointed to, and it's already building up pretty big. So we're looking forward to these events, not in a good way, but maybe if you're not prepared, those dates of interest again, October 9th, and we're looking at that because of the Biden plane and the connections there, or November. It was no October 19th and November 9th possibly, and now definitely like Back to the Future was right about 9/11. Like, there's no doubt about it. If you've watched and looked at it with any serious look, 9/11 is totally forecast through that whole movie. No doubt about it. Why wouldn't they be then accurate about the second number? Like, it just doesn't make sense. They went out of their way to make sure that that would happen. And everything else is lining up because we're living in a world dominated by P. Fizzer. I keep saying it that way so that hopefully it beats the algorithm. But when we take a look at that, like, all of his numbers are wrapped right around everything that's going on. His derivative companies wrapped around everything that's going on. We've been inundated and programmed to go through this event by that exact genre of movie. Like, this is the perfect event by this system and this corporation to be pushing it. So it's just too many things pointing at this time to these numbers, especially December 1st, 2021. So let's keep a big eye out for this one because it does definitely seem to have legs. And, Theology Ed, I hope if you watch this that you might get something out of it to put towards your guys. Good find here. Good work. To the rest of you, I hope this finds you well. God bless.